Oh, hey everybody. Welcome to the SOS Small Business Success Podcast. We're all about building brands for you to survive, and then, of course, developing you so that you can thrive. And all of that is done through the framework that I put together in my SOS coaching program. And then, of course, I share it on my podcast each and every week. Welcome to September 1st, 2022. I am not ready for September. I'm not ready for fall. I'm not ready for winter. I'm not ready for the holidays. Not ready for any of that. I am like one of those people, obviously by my theme of my podcast being around boating and sailing, is I just want it to be endless summer. I want summer to never, ever, ever, ever end. All right, guys. Hey, welcome. I'm your host, Bonnie Bonadeo. Ahoy. Ahoy, mateys. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so we are in a particular series right now that we're doing. So it's how to be able to recession proof your salon. And this is part 4 of the series. And we're going to talk about mindset today. So at this point, we've talked about sales, how to increase your sales, what you need to do. Then we went into operations, but I focused on how to be able to decrease your expenses. And then part 3, we had our great guest, Danielle Hildreth. She was on and we talked about marketing, and we kind of focused in on 2 areas, your bio on Instagram and doing reels to be able to get attention. And I got to tell you, I'm getting really good at it. I'm having fun with it. So it doesn't feel like as much work because now I know how to do it. So now I'm kind of playing around and experimenting with it. And we're going to have Danielle back this fall for more ongoing education and some series that I'm putting together right now. So again, stay tuned for that. Today is the mindset piece of how to recession proof your salon. And our title today is called Ebb and Flow. Because that's really, I mean, for you to be in the right mindset, it is an ebb and flow. Like there's just sometimes that we're going to be crazy and busy and out of control. And then there's other times that things are just going to kind of naturally flow for us. So I'm going to share with you a story, and we'll talk about these mindset pieces that are in this guide that you can download. And I'll show you how to be able to download that at the end of this podcast as well. So nothing is coincidence, right? So this week I did a video for Manic Monday, and I posted the video out there. And one of the things that I said is how I titled it is, yes, I'm a licensed cosmetologist, because I had 3 people recently, 3 people that know me and have known me for many years, said, I didn't know you were a licensed cosmetologist. I didn't know you did hair. And it really occurred to me that, wow, I'm not doing a good job of keeping that part of my brand intact with the industry. It's like, oh, I thought y'all knew this, right? So my bad, definitely on that. And but what it occurred to me is that I needed to kind of take people through the timeline of, why I ended up going into all of the roles that I did, based on being a licensed cosmetologist, based on feeling as though I didn't have the skill or the confidence to be able to do good hair, and then where I sourced that information and education in order to do good hair. But the business side of the industry really appealed to me greatly. And so I kind of stayed in that realm. That's why I am the coach and the speaker and the trainer and the author and the podcaster today. And I speak more on the business side of beauty than the technical side of beauty. Okay. This all going to come to fruition for you as we progress here. So I appreciate those of you that have been listening, paying attention, being a part of this. So let's talk a little bit about kind of this ebb and flow. So I said earlier that I was going to share a story on my podcast today. And so I looked at the video that I did on Monday, and it had a timeline of certain credential or experiences or roles that I played in the industry. And I said each one of those was a story in itself, and that I would bring one of those stories to life on the podcast today. Now, I didn't know which one at the time. Okay. I was going to just kind of allow it to just kind of flow, ebb and flow, for me to be able to determine which piece of that video, which piece of that credential timeline was I going to convert into a story. Well, here I am. I'm taking a very quick trip to New York to hang out with Nick Arrojo up at his place in Chappaqua, New York. And he had a big event there in Brooklyn last night as a transition from one of his salons to what he's calling a studio location now. And you can find out more about that. I'm sure if you go on to his Instagram, you'll see some of the event details from last night on there. And but I ended up in Jeff and I ended up going up to Chappaqua, and he had a friend there with him as well that was going to be kind of part of the event and was also staying at the house along with us. And as we were sitting there talking and chatting and catching up, and it was just this kind of this nice casual, went up to the, the country part of out of the city, had a nice lunch at this beautiful little Italian restaurant with another salon owner named Franco, and then, shared some wine, broke some bread together type thing, went back to Chappaqua to his house, sat around and had a couple more cocktails and just enjoyed the conversation. But the other gentleman that was with us there at the house was Brain Bode. And so as I'm like, God, he's so familiar, something so familiar about this. But, 41 in the industry is a lot of people are familiar. And then, of course, you have all this social media today that we're all friends, right? Even though maybe some of you guys have never met before. We're friends on Facebook, so we see what's going on in each other's lives and businesses based on social media. Well, we didn't have that back in the day. So finally, it all came piecing together for me who Brain Bode was. And he is the the nephew of Jerry Cosenza. And Jerry Cosenza was one of the founders with John Cosenza of Sebastian International. So here it was, some that I worked with in the 90s. And I now, like, all of it came together and remembered it. And we had the greatest conversation of being able to talk about Sebastian during the 90s. Now this was a company that started in the late 70s and was like the hottest thing in the 80s into the early 90s. And I had the great opportunity to be able to work for John and Jerry and experience that part of it. Now, I said in the video on Monday, I mentioned that my time with Sebastian was my most creative time in the industry. It was really the melting of business, hair, and beauty for me. Okay. Business, hair, and beauty for me. And I learned so much. And I just want to share with you guys some of what I learned in that. So, Brian, it was great to connect with you again. And Nick, thank you for having us up there in your Chappaqua, beautiful home in Chappaqua. But I want to share with you guys like some of what's happening, here in that timeline of when I was in Sebastian. So I shared yesterday or Tuesday a story template for you how to be able to take credentials or experiences or certain things that you've done in your career and convert them into a story so that you can use them for content here. Now, obviously, I use a lot of this content in my podcast, but I also use it in just some of my marketing as well. And our topic today in the ebb and flow part of it is really to be able to look at how to be able to balance that mindset to where you feel like you're expressing yourself, sharing yourself, but also growing yourself and your business along the way. It's not always about promotion. It's not always about the final look of, a hairstyle type of thing. Sometimes it has to be more nurtured, more personal. And that's what we're going to talk about today for sure. Yeah. Now, I've always said that my brand is connection, right? And my tagline is connecting you to you so that you can confidently connect with others. Like that's what I sum up in what I do in all of the elements that I offer: speaker, trainer, coach, podcaster, all of that kind of is like, I'm helping to connect you to you so that you can better connect with other people. But I got to tell you, I haven't been very connected lately. And I know a lot of us haven't, just under the circumstances of what we've been through over the last couple of years. And then really thinking, what do I need to be doing with my time? I think we all had a level of transformation, okay, which is part of the story template here, transformation. We all had some level of transformation following COVID that had us look at what we were spending our time, energy, money, and resources on, right? The timer method. And, I used to have all this FOMO. It was like, oh, I had to be at every hair show. I had to be doing this, I had to be doing that. And now it's like, okay, why do I need to be doing this? I really ask myself that question. This is a big mindset piece right here. Why am I doing this? Okay. Why do I need to be doing this? And the question then becomes, am I doing it for my ego or am I doing it for my spirit? And a lot of what I was doing prior to COVID was ego based. I mean, it was just if other coaches were out there doing things and I was out there doing things, and I felt that there was like this competitive approach to how we were doing things, and that competitive approach kind of like put you in that space of like, you know, being ego driven and trying to bring things to the next level. But now I really look at things as, does it speak to my spirit, and do I need to be spending time doing this? Is it going to bring me to the next level? Is it going to allow me to evolve? Is there still going to be joy in the experience of it? Or is it not going to be joyful for me at this point? And it's really a lot of the foundation of how I'm coaching my clients at this point too, because we can't be wasting time and money and energy and resources anymore. We can't. So we really have to dive in deep into this part of us that says, if I do this, I'm committing to it. I'm doing it full out. I'm putting all the pieces together and making it work for me. So then that leads me to the time that I spent in New York with my fiance, Jeff South, and Nick Arrojo and Brain Bode, and being able to kind of reminisce about Sebastian and how the great opportunity of saying that was one of my most creative times. And then here I got this moment to be able to have that creative time with these gentlemen in a non-event environment, just in a real casual home-based type of environment. Now, the time that I spent at Sebastian was coming off of a time where I worked really, really hard for Matrix. And in that transition of leaving Matrix and then going into Sebastian, I learned a lot. I made a lot of mistakes because I was new at that type of a role. And so I really wanted to kind of step into a position with a little bit more credentials, a little bit more expertise. And boy, did I ever have to deliver on that, because the team that I worked with at Sebastian really held you up, but they also would tell you if you were weighing them down. So you never wanted to be the weakest link in the chain of that particular leadership. And the practice that we had to do in order to be really effective with our jobs in this sales capacity meant that we had to practice in front of each other. We had to practice in front of the marketing team, and we had to practice in front of John and Jerry. And they were diligent. They were like, nope, didn't pass, do it again. Can't go out there until you do it better type of thing. Now, mind you guys, this is in the 90s when we didn't have social media. We barely had video, and Sebastian was one of the most innovative companies at the time in regards to that type of technology. I mean, they had video that they utilized, but they didn't have platforms to push it out to. So if you came to an event, you would see videos. But if you didn't come to an event, you wouldn't necessarily see some of these innovative materials that they used at the time. So it was really print. We had print brochures and old-fashioned type of marketing approaches like that. So I didn't even carry a computer with me during this particular time working for Sebastian. They only just gave us computers towards the end of my time there for us to be able to, provide presentations, share promotions that way, be able to look up numbers and charts and spreadsheets and everything. So it was really our words that we had to get good at, which meant that we had to be good storytellers in this time. Okay. And Sebastian they were the best storytellers of all. So Jerry would have this vision, she'd turn it into a product, or this experience, and she'd turn it into a product. And then the product would come out, they would tie the hair or makeup around it, and then they would bring it to the sales team. And then we had to take that information without any visuals. And because some of the sales team was not licensed cosmetologists, so it was without doing hair or touching hair. And we had to share with our distributors what this new product was about. And then we had to share with the sales team what this product was about, how to use it, when to use it, why to use it. And then they had to share it with their salons. Now you can imagine during this time how much got lost in translation. Okay, because all of that was just based on words and maybe a couple of brochures that we had as support material. All of that got lost in translation. So we had to practice. We had to be really good at taking this creative vision that Sebastian offered and converting it into sellable products that a salesperson that was not a hairdresser could communicate effectively to a salon owner and her team of hairdressers. Okay, so it was a fun time, and I still remember the retreats that we did, the team building connection that was there, the distribution being very excited about being a part of Sebastian as a company. And all that experience was. I mean, selling product and being a part of a company was very, very popular at that time. And you were the it salon if you had Sebastian in there. So it was a great time to be able to do that. I definitely had to be at my best. There was no slacking off in this team. There was no slacking off in working for this company. They gave us a budget for our territories, and they didn't necessarily give us guidelines. They didn't tell us where we had to spend it or how much could be spent in each of these line items. They're like, this is what your money is. Now, if you don't grow your business, your budget goes away. And if you grow the business, you get more money to spend. So we did really creative things, took clients on retreats. I took my clients in Arizona to the Biosphere down in Tucson, and we did an entire day and presentation and experience in the Biosphere in Tucson. I took other customers to basketball games or football games, whatever their interests were. And it was all designed to be able to grow the business. And if we grew the business, we got more money into our budget. And that's how it worked. So you had to really be creative in that. Now, the turning point was during this time that, there was a lot of diversion happening at this point. And so companies were kind of getting slapped a little bit for the excessive amount of diversion. But what they created was a supply and demand. They created an enormous supply and demand. Okay. But it was a great time to be with that company, and Shaper Hairspray. We all know Shaper Hairspray. It's still one of the best hairsprays out there. I was there for the launch of Potion 9. If you'd ever been to the Sebastian headquarters in Woodland Hills, California, it was an actual pyramid. So it had this enormous amount of energy just based on how it was built and the creative flow of the building itself. And they did crazy things that were kind of outside just industry events, like the Dada event, which was all about art and artistry, and some of the early artists that had representation to changing things in the world. And of course, AIDS was a big thing back then. So a lot of money went to cause marketing with Sebastian. I think they were one of the first companies to do an enormous amount of cause marketing that helped charities and foundations in the area. So great time to be there. It was relatable to all of these salons at the time because they felt like they were a part of something. And, in the end, I can say that time that I spent with Sebastian was very transformational. And to be able to rehash that over this week with Brain Bode and talk about the people we knew and the experiences that we had and the passion that was available in the industry at that time was like reliving it all over again. And I loved that. And what my conclusion on this is yes, that was a transformational time in the industry for me. But the conclusion of it is that 24 hours that I got to spend in New York hanging out with Brian and Nick and Jeff wasn't about trying to do the perfect Instagram picture. It wasn't about trying to, one up, and making us look good on social media. We literally sat around and broke bread and shared stories, shared struggles, shared successes, came up with solutions, clapped when somebody had something great to say, and all just sitting out on a patio under a evening sky and enjoying that time in there. So connection was really important. The human connection, the face-to-face connection was even more important. And I really do think it's time that we got back to that. I mean, as a salon, a director of a salon, and having a salon with Jeff, we are in the people business. Okay. We're not in the hair business. We're in the people business doing hair. And so the people part of this business is good, but the industry in itself is really kind of went away and is so much more virtual. There's more virtual learning, and there's less connection with manufacturers. There's less of that feeling like you're part of something. And listen, Nick Arrojo is definitely something to be part of. Check out Brain Bode's line as well that he's developed. And he still has his salon in Monterey, California. So, these are people that are still out there doing it and making the best of it under the circumstances that we're in. But that time, that connection, so valid. I think face-to-face time with people without it feeling like there's a full-on agenda is underrated. And I think we need to be doing more of that. I think that, yes, we all want to learn how to make our company more profitable. We all want to learn how to better market our company. But at the end of the day, sometimes just being able to share the experiences with other people and realize you're not alone in it, that we're all struggling with some of the same issues, and that every industry has an ebb and flow. And every one of us as, business people have an ebb and flow. And we just have to keep that connection alive. Okay. All right. So this is the story template that you guys can download. If you go to my IG, go to bio, you'll be able to see that there's a story template download in there. So it starts out with the starting point, turning point, overture, relatable, and then your transformation. And all of that I just shared in this experience that I had with Sebastian. So I was able to turn it into a story. I was able to convert it into content. And ultimately, I was able to kind of let you know that was one snippet of, I think it was 4 years of my career, 4 years, but it was a big 4 years of my career. It was a memorable 4 years of my career. And I felt like this week sitting around with those gentlemen, I felt like it was the 4 years kind of happening all in a 24-hour period now, because things are moving so much faster. We don't have that same learning curve. We're older, we're more mature, we're more experienced and everything. We don't have to go through the hard parts as much. I say that with a laugh because the last couple of years have been very hard for most of us. But that 24 hours was like summing up a really good part of 4 years of my career. And being a licensed cosmetologist gave me the beginning, the middle, and I'm sure the end of all of these stories, because it was the industry that I chose to be in. And beauty has definitely been a very, very enriching experience for me. And I'm going to continue to evolve, and I'm going to continue to grow, and I'm going to continue to create more opportunities for people to learn from all that I've learned. And I'm going to continue to keep learning so that I can share more and more with you. So, okay. So I want to go through the 4 pieces of the mindset that's in the guide, the guide to Recession Proof Your Salon, which is also in my bio, in my IG, if you want to download it there. But here's the 4 pieces. So I loved this quote. Okay. And speed of the leader, speed of the team. You build a future together with intent over fear. And again, it's so weird. It's so synchronistic that all of this is like that time in my life. The leadership at Sebastian was all about being uber creative and moving very, very fast. Like move fast, get it done, see the results. We're going to do it again, and then we're going to duplicate it type of thing. So, in that sense, that quote is really, really fitting to this. And I put this, piece of paper together. I put this part of the guide together, a month ago. So it's funny how it's all coming together for me, very synchronistic. So here's the one: be present. Okay. There's not much we can do about the economy, but we can still be mindful how these relationships impact your business. Be present and aware things impact your bottom line, your brand, and your culture. Also true. Okay. Look for opportunities. In an unstable economy, people tend to withhold or tighten up. And obviously that's what they're telling us to do when they use the word recession. Spend less so that we can kind of taper spending at high cost so we can bring it back into balance here. Okay. And there's some areas that this will hold true. So look for opportunities to revise and define your business and show up in different ways that aren't necessarily about spending more money, but it's about being more nimble in there. Build confidence in yourself and your team, because under these trying times of what's happening with our economy, we lose a little confidence. You know, we have a couple no-shows and some clients that canceled on us, and then we all of a sudden think, oh, I can't make my car payment or whatever these things are. So continue to build confidence in yourself and your team that these things don't last forever, and that we still, you know, we still have to have this incredible culture and do good hair and you know, really add more value to the clients during these times where everybody's pocketbooks are being pinched a little bit more. And look for ways to build trust in your leadership. And if you're a working stylist, look for ways to build trust even more with your clients during this time, because it's going to give them less of a reason to not show up or try somebody cheaper. Okay. And then of course, always manage by coaching. The biggest mistake we make sometimes is managing by policy. I see this happen every day in our salon, where we try to manage too much by policy, and it doesn't always work. Okay. We have to manage by what's happening in the moment and the circumstances that we're up against, because there's always a gray area to this. But coach people instead of managing people. And that includes your clients too. You can certainly go down a coaching method approach with your clients versus throwing policy at them. And opportunities to coach each other in those moments. You know, ask the questions. Why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? Where do I need to be doing this? When do I need to be doing it? How do I do this? Keep asking those questions. Those are good coaching elements to be able to kind of get you in the right mindset, so that you can make lasting impacts on other people. So, okay, again, you can download this workbook for the storytelling piece. You can download that in my IG bio. And then you can also download the SOS Guide to Recession Proof Your Salon. Now, I had somebody that showed up last week. They were listening to my podcast and they were like, the marketing podcast. And they're like, I really need help on it. I want to kind of like rebrand my business and everything. So I had a chance to get on the phone with them last week and to be able to look at some areas of opportunities. And they've done a little bit of work already that makes a lot of sense, and it's a good direction for them to go in. So I'm just kind of helping them with the right resources to be able to pull that together so that they can relaunch their brand and strengthen that relationship that they have with the clients in their community. So if you guys need a free session with me as well, you know that you can go to anyone, you go to my IG, same thing, bio, you'll be able to see an opportunity in there to be able to get a free discovery call or a free SOS coaching session, whatever you want. Doesn't matter what the topic is. I'm happy to take the time to be able to meet with you and see if there is some opportunities for us to be able to work together. All right, keep listening to this podcast, because this is a series and we have our final series next week where we're going to talk about education. All right, so this is your guide to Recession Proof Your Salon series. And next week, we're going to be talking about education and what we need to be learning right now in order to grow ourselves, grow our business, and grow our clientele. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for joining me. See you next week.